to What's Next, Living Longer, Better, Smarter. In this edition, food, fun, friends, and family. This podcast is made possible by Ageless Innovation, a company focused on bringing comfort, companionship, and the power of play to older adults and their families through their Joy for All companion pets. Find more information at joyforall.com. I'm Fred Fishkin along with Mary Furlong. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Fred.
Well, this is the time of year when plans are typically being made for big family Thanksgiving dinners and all of the celebrations to come in December. But here we are, still in the midst of COVID-19, wearing masks, and for many, many of us, still a lot of isolation and loneliness.
And we've been given guidance to be really careful this holiday season. So this show is an attempt to give you ideas on how to bring fun and family together this holiday. So over to you, Fred, for our first guest to introduce.
Well, there are many ways to turn lemons into lemonade, tomatoes into tomato sauce. I'm trying to twist this into an introduction of our first guest, the wonderful award-winning chef, author, and television host, Lydia Bastianich. Thank you so much for being here with us, Lidia.
A pleasure, Fred. Hi, Mary. Pleasure being on your show.
Thank you.
Well, we love the stories you tell your PBS audiences every week. One, Lydia's Kitchen, taking us back to your native Italy and your grandmother and the family and traditions all the time. It's really wonderful. The theme this season is appropriately on reflecting and reconnecting. So, Lydia, some of your fans and viewers may not be aware of your personal journey here that led you and your family to America. Wasn't always easy.
No, Fred, it wasn't. But it ended up fantastic. Nonetheless, I'm an immigrant. I came to the United States when I was 12 years old as an immigrant. So I was born in a part of Italy that is no longer Italy. Istria is a little peninsula northeast by Venice. And after World War II, Italy lost the war. That part was given to communist Yugoslavia. And so communism came, we got caught behind the Iron Curtain, and, everything changed. Our name, we couldn't speak Italian, we couldn't go to church, many things. And for about 10 years, my parents, I was just born around that time, right after the war. My parents tried to make life happen, but they just couldn't. And in 1956, they decided that they needed to get out of there. So my mother, my brother, and I were given the visa to go to Trieste, which was Italy, and because they wouldn't take the whole family to go. My father remained. So we went, and my father literally escaped 2 weeks after, joined us in Trieste. Trieste, we stayed with family, but we were not legal at that point because everything had changed. So we ended up in a refugee camp, San Saba, a political refugee camp. And we stayed there for 2 years, awaiting for an opportunity to migrate someplace. And Dwight Eisenhower was the president, and he opened immigration for the sort of refugees or people fleeing communism. And in 1958, we got our invitation on our visa to come to the United States. And, the Catholic Relief Services brought us to the United States. And here, we didn't have anybody, but we were so happy to come to hopefully have a home, make a life, have the freedom. And indeed, it was an opportunity like no other in the world that we received, and a blessing. And, that's the beginning of my American story.
And of course, it all led to your wonderful restaurants and everything that you have today. I mean, that was, I guess, a bit of an evolution for you, but you were always pretty much, it sounds like from your shows, in the kitchen or nearby.
Well, yeah, Fred, if you go back to that East there, to that little, sort of communist thing, my mother put my brother and I with grandma in a little country kind of town. So we were away from the big city, from the real oppression. And there, grandma produced, made, had animals to feed the whole family. So I was a little helper in a sense. We were there. We had goats, we had rabbits, we had chickens, we had duck, we had 2 pigs, we had geese. And, I help grandma with all of that, collect the eggs, make the dough, milk the goats, make ricotta, and then, of course, a garden. And I would help her with that too, harvest the string beans, the peas, and so on. So it was a kind of I grew up in a wonderful setting, a natural setting, a setting of making food, of generating food with the earth, with the animals, and providing food for the family. And, ultimately ending up in the kitchen with grandma. I was young, but, I guess I took in a lot of that period.
In some ways, Fred, that's what's happening today as families are more together at home. And it's interesting how you talk about your restaurants in New York. You have to think about the wider business and how you are pivoting your own work.
Well, it evolved, I guess from being there, coming to the United States, and somehow I always ended up in the food, even though going to school and whatever. My mother was a teacher, my father was a mechanic, so they were not in the business. But I did meet my future husband then, who was in the business. He was sort of, we call it, in the front of the house. And going to school, I worked in bakeries, I worked in restaurants, like all the kids do to me, but I loved it. And I guess maybe that's one of the things that connected my husband and I. And ultimately we got married. And in 1971, we opened our first little restaurant. He wanted to open a little restaurant. And that was in Forest Hills. It was a 30-seater. And that was the beginning. Now, I wasn't a chef. I loved cooking. I cooked for the house. I cooked in these restaurants, little things when I worked. But I was not a chef. But we hired a chef. And I became the sous chef for 10 years. I worked as a sous chef with this chef that we had, Giuseppe. And I really honed my skills. And after that, by then, 10 years, we had 2 restaurants. So I loved what we had. My husband was good at it. I guess, the food that we produced, people really enjoyed and loved, was part Italian-American food and part regional Italian food, because we were cooking regional food, Italian food at home. And the people loved it. And we then sold those restaurants, which were in the Queens, in the suburbs of Manhattan, if you will. And we came to Manhattan with Lidia, and there I became the chef, and it was successful. Yeah, it was a great opportunity of growth, and for something that I loved. So
was it an accident? Was there an accidental thing that happened, or did you have a mentor that led you onto the TV set?
Well, yeah, I always say to everybody, life is, my life is certainly, I didn't have a long-term plan of the ending on TV and having so many books and all the restaurants. I looked at the opportunities as they came, and opportunities did come. For television, for example, when I opened for Lidia and I became the chef, I got a lot of notoriety from journalists. Who's this woman chef, young, cooking this kind of different Italian food? And Julia Child, James Beard came in one evening, and she wanted to know, she loved risotto, mushroom risotto. She wanted to learn it from me, ultimately invited me on her show. And of course, the producer said, "Oh, Joe, Lidia, you're pretty good. How about a show of your own?" And she encouraged me. So this is my, if you will, my TV persona and books and all of that. It's basically, it has Julia Child at the base who kind of introduced me. We did 2 of her shows, and then the producer took me on, and she encouraged me along the way.
Doesn't get better than that. And what you've done with the show is really made it in a very different sense than we're used to saying here, a family show, your family.
Well, yeah, Fred, because that's what at least that's Italian, but I think most of the people, I am about family. My mother, who's 99 now, lives with me. And so we were always 3-4 generations in the house, and we loved it. And also, I guess our own, being Italian, but also our trip, it was only the family. So it was very important that the family really stuck together. And the family was always involved in everything. You know, you asked the family for help. You know, as we were building the restaurants, my mother would come in and she would help, and she would make homemade pasta, homemade gnocchi. And then as the kids grew up, as Joseph, my son, and Tanya, even though I always told them, you don't want to do this, you want to go to school, you want to get a real American job, they did. You know, my daughter has a PhD in Renaissance art history from Oxford, my son a master's in business, but they both are in the business and they are leading the businesses now. So it's a family affair all the way, Fred.
That's so wonderful. Tell us about how this pandemic, how COVID has affected what you do and your family.
Well, COVID, you know, has certainly affected us as a family, like most of the world, shall we say. But COVID, I think, especially hit hard our industry, the restaurant industry, the people that work in. It's a big industry, and yet, you know, we were shut down. We are still shut down. Very, you know, if we can put a few tables outside, some of our restaurants are open. We have tables outside on the sidewalk, in the streets. Now the inside is at 25%. Just this morning, I read some news that's being reconsidered since the epidemic seems to be resurfacing, if you will, in some way. So this has been really a hard blow on us as a family, individuals, businesses, our businesses. You know, most of them are shut. I think out of 12 restaurants, I think 4 are operating, 2 in New York, maybe 2 in Connecticut, 1 in Kansas City, and 2 in LA. So it's, you know, business-wise, it really has affected us. But all of the people that, you know, through the years worked for us, that's really sad, because there's not much that we can do for them. You know, if we cannot generate a business, you know, we don't have a deep pocket enough to hold everybody on our. So that's what really hurts me, is all the great people that have worked for us, that became part of our family and their extended family, and there's not much that we can do for them.
And Mary, here we come to the holidays with all of this going on.
Well, you know, I knew through the years in working with seniors that if you could cook something and the house smelled good, then that made you feel good. And so we are going to turn to our guest, Ted Fisher. And Ted, you have done so much to make a difference in the lives of older people. So we'd like to have you share your story, what you have been doing the last 6 or 7 months with your family, who's also Italian, right? And then tell us how you brought smiles to the faces of seniors in all sorts of ways.
Yeah, so thank you, Mary, and thank you, Fred, for having me. Lydia, I love hearing your story. I'm a few generations removed from Italian immigrants, but I've heard many stories that sound a lot like that. So it's great to be here, and this has been, you know, an interesting time. I mean, Ageless Innovation is a company that focuses 100% on older adults and their families, trying to bring happiness and joy and companionship. And you know, when this first hit, we weren't sure exactly if we were going to be able to continue. And you know, the similar stories of, you know, is our supply chain going to be affected? Are we going to be able to get to people? Are people going to get to stores? In the beginning, you know, February, March, April, it was pretty unknown. And from a personal perspective, I think there's a bunch of blessings that have been the result of COVID to go with all the difficulty. But I have 3 20-something-year-old children. I never thought in a million years that I'd have them all back at my house and living with me uninterrupted, really without any competition. So for 4 or 5 months, that dinner table was full with my family, which was something I never expected. So the closeness of our family was certainly important. My youngest child was a senior in college, or was a junior actually when this whole happened. Now she's a senior, but we went out there, and she goes to school in Ohio, and her in 2 days, her semester was put on hold and then canceled. And driving back from Ohio, we started to talk about how we could make some good out of this difficult situation. And one of the things that we decided to do is pick up a Meals on Wheels route. So understanding how important nutrition and how companionship and those things are, we decided that we were going to go and deliver some meals. And to this day, 6 or so months later, I'm still doing it. So, the opportunity to be in the lives of older adults and see what they're going through every single day and how isolated and how lonely they truly are really enhances the work that our company does. And it's become really meaningful, very, very personal to me. And, I have 20 friends that I see on a very regular basis now who, in many cases, I or my daughter and I may be the only people they see in a day, right? So it just highlights how critically important it is that we think about family in a different way. We think about expanding, what our family means. And as these, protective measures that we know are so important, right now to safeguard older adults, they also further isolate them. They also put them in places where they're not with their families, they're not able to be with their peers, their caregivers, their loved ones. And so, we've, at Ageless Innovation, I think, one of the things that we think about all the time is how holistically we, as a company, as an organization, as people, are really immersed and involved in sort of the, the betterment and the happiness and joy of older adults. And certainly, sort of weaving that whole story through these last 6 months has not only been, I'd say it's the most selfish thing that I do, because I know that I get more out of it than any of the folks that I deliver meals to. But more than that, it keeps us grounded in the work we do here at Ageless Innovation every day.
That's beautiful.
I want to pick up the theme of gratitude, because I don't think it takes that much to make something and share it, and to think a little bit outside of yourselves this time of year. And so, Lydia, we're thrilled that you're sharing some recipes, and I'm going to be making your Yukon gold potatoes and sweet potatoes. One of my last memories with my mother is we went to cooking school to learn how to cook Thanksgiving dinner in a light way. And it was just that shared experience. So we're all learning how to have Zoom baby showers and birthday parties. So I think there is this possibility of picking up on the inspiration of Ted and the way you and your daughter reached out, but we can all figure out ways to bring that joy in the lives of older people. And seeing you and your mom in the kitchen, sharing a glass of wine or learning about ricotta. Ricotta is one of the healthiest things you could eat as you're older. It's just a little bit of joy, right? So I think there is something we can do this holiday as business leaders and artists and chefs to bring the fun back. And so that's kind of what I'm hoping this show will do, is find new ways to get together. So,
I mean, families, we've talked about it, Mary, families can actually virtually share meals together. Lydia, maybe we can turn to you first. First of all, I want to share something with our audience here, the people who are viewing, and I'll let you comment on this. Let me just share a screen with you for just 1 second. Tell us about this. This does not look too Italian.
This is, well, I love Thanksgiving because it's the one holiday that I deviate from that very time, and we submerge ourselves in the American culture. For me, it's an adaptive culture, but my children and grandchildren are Americans, and so it's one way of me saying thank you to America and really celebrate what America is all about. And Thanksgiving is the ideal holiday, and that is in my kitchen. My grandkids, I have 5 of them. It's a few years ago, and of course, we have the turkey and we have the cranberries, but we have all the other things, Italian too, a little baked pasta. So I mix it up a little bit. But, as Mary was talking about the pleasures of dining and eating, yes, I do have my mother. She lives with me. And what I notice ever more, she's 99, as I said, that the meal times are so important and rewarding to her. Mm-hmm. So we have a full breakfast, a full lunch around 1 o'clock, that's the big meal, and then a lighter dinner. And she sits at the table and she's all smiles and she's smelling and she says, okay, what did you cook today? Oh, I love this. And, then I look at her and I look at how she enjoys. And you realize that when you reach, I guess, 99, she doesn't see as well. Her olfactory is a little, it has gone away, so she doesn't smell as much. She doesn't hear too much, but the sense of enjoying food is still with her, and she sort of lights up when the food is there, and she eats it, and she takes the bread and mops it up and makes all kinds of comments. Do you want a little vino? Absolutely, she has a little vino, and she wants a dessert after that and the fruit. And so that the mealtime, especially when people reach a certain age, is such an important part of still being very much connected and enjoying your senses and enjoying life. And in talking about the helping with other people and working, my mother, of course, she built a friendship of older, and we had 3 couples, 1 single and 2 couples in their 90s. And when I'm cooking for her, I bring to them food also. So they're in the neighborhood, and I make my rounds, and I put big pots of soups. I put them in the freezer. And so about 3 times a week, I stop at their house, and they light up. When they see me, they open the door. I guess just seeing a person, some of them have their children, they're not close to them. So it's difficult, not being able to connect with anybody. So, what Ted is doing and his daughter, it's so important. Yes, the nourishing, the food, but also somebody cares, somebody rings the bell, somebody's going to come and see you, so it's such an important part of, I think, a normal life in kind of continuing to involve the older generation into our lives and making them part of our lives, but especially now during the pandemic.
And the idea of I'm curious what you might think of it, of sharing recipes among people that you can't be with, and using this technology like we're using now, something like Zoom, to sit down and maybe eat the same food and enjoy a meal together.
Fred, I can't tell you how many emails I get. And I get requests to kind of send little happy birthday wishes. And what is this recipe? My mother used to make this recipe. I don't remember, but I remember it was this and this. Lydia, do you have it? It brings back memory. I can't tell you the connection with recipes and their family and me, and sort of responding to them, and how that takes them to a special place. So yes, especially family recipe, exchanging it within the family itself, but also with others. And there's a lot of, the internet is a wonderful way to get out there, whether it's, Instagram or tweeting and all of that. I get a tremendous response. People are watching, people are needy, people want to connect with food, and they're in the kitchen, so they want to try.
Fred, I want to pick up on this theme because I know, Ted, you've looked at it from a research point of view too, and that is loneliness and social isolation. Because while it is older people, it's also young people living alone. It's teenagers who can't see their friends. And I know on the website, we're going to be posting some of these seminal papers about social isolation. So can you tell us about what you've seen in your research, and also how some of the state agencies have been supporting your work as innovators?
Sure. I don't know what it is, but when Lydia talks, I get hungry. Is that normal?
You want some recipes?
Yes, we're going to send those recipes.
Quick funny story was my daughter's 25th birthday, and my wife is also half Italian. Her grandfather was an Italian chef named Remigio Zucchetto. He came in through Canada, down through Detroit, and he was the chef at the Cadillac Hotel. And he had a risotto recipe that my daughter just 2 nights ago said, "Mom, I want, that is what I want for my birthday meal." So, we're breaking out the old file card, index.
Oh, we need that recipe.
So it's really good too. Yeah, I had it for lunch here yesterday too. It was very good. So I think, one of the things that we've seen, and since we launched the Joy for All companion pets back in 2015, the overwhelming response to this, what I call very simple technology, right? And the idea was a give and take. We wanted to create something that was comforting and calming, but also gave people, that fun and joyful playfulness. The key insight that we leaned into, one, that there was this need for interactive companionship, but two, there was just older adults want to have more fun and play. It's your mom who wants to have a glass of wine, enjoy the taste of food, and enjoy. We work our whole lives to get to that point, and when we get there, people say, "Oh, you're too old to play." Well, we think play is a basic human need, and what we've seen is that with our companion pets, you can't be with family all the time. I mean, I use my grandmother as my example all the time. She lived with, a bunch of us live within 10 miles of her, assisted living and then memory care. And despite all of us visiting often, she spent 20 hours a day alone. And that's just the reality of life. And so trying to create something that had this give and take where you gave something, you got something back, that's been sort of the premise of that the Joy for All companion pets were built on. As the pandemic started to reach these critical levels in February, March, and we started hearing about it in February, then in March it really hit. And we had done some pilot work with the state of New York, and I had the director of the Office of Aging Affairs there, Greg Olson, reached out and he said, "Listen, we're about to face the epidemic inside of this pandemic, where all of the older adult population that were living in community-based settings and away from their family are going to be shut off, and they're going to be alone. And we need to address it immediately." And so within 2 weeks, we had a public-private partnership formed, and they had done a pilot with our products and realized that the impact that it had, and the research had borne out that it gives people a sense of purpose. It makes them less lonely and depressed and happier. And we think that play is an underrated weapon in this fight against social isolation. It really is something that when people are happy, they feel better. It's pretty simple.
Well, Ted, it's technology, but it doesn't feel to the user like technology. You have sensors in these cuddly pets, the cats and puppies that move when they're pet. They make sounds, and it's very close to having a real pet without all the fuss, I guess you could say.
Well, my aunt, the Benedictine nun, she named her pets, right? So and you have a new one coming out, right? Tell us about the new.
We do. Actually, I have him sitting here very quietly next to me. Yeah.
Well, pick him up.
If I turn them on, he'll dominate the conversation. But this is our new freckled pup. So this guy, if I turn him on, he'll interact with us and maybe give a couple sounds and so he's going to respond to sound and to touch. We're pretty excited about him. We think he's pretty cute. He thinks he's pretty cute also. And what I think you're hitting on, Fred, is the fact that when we were designing this product, we were working at Hasbro. We spun out of Hasbro, which is the world's largest toy company. And there were very few people there who really knew what older adults wanted or needed. So it was up to my team to go out there and do the research. And what we heard continuously was, as you said, it is technology, but we don't talk much about the technology. We talk about the magic that happens when you turn it on, you give it to somebody, they name it Fluffy, like Mary's aunt, who was one of my favorite people. I got many pictures of her with our pets. And we think, but the reason that people, I think, have responded to is because every feature that's in our product was designed or told to us or by older adults. We went to people and said, "What does it need to do? What does it need to do?" And the realism piece was really important. And doing all that affordably was the real challenge. And so amazing designers and engineers that helped us do it. And this is our cat here too, which is this guy. I think part of the response has been so positive. And since New York did their pilot, in Florida, a couple of weeks later, I had spoken on a panel with the Secretary of Older Aging Affairs or Elderly Affairs down in Florida, and he said we're facing the same issue. So that started our second, state partnership, and now we have 14 of them. And so around the country, we're dealing directly with these Office of Aging, and they're distributing our pets out to those most in need, the lonely, isolated seniors. So it's been, for us, just an amazing. We're humbled every day just thinking about the impact that we're having, what I think is a very simple technology.
And they're affordable for families to buy on their own as well, through your website. It's not just you're not just working through governments, obviously.
Correct. Yeah. No. I mean, typically, the biggest part of our business is our retail business. So you can buy it at CVS or Amazon or Walmart.com and some other places. But these programs with the state agencies, we're seeing such direct impact. That's why they've been so meaningful. And in January, they weren't even on the radar, right? So it was really COVID that shone a light on this epidemic, which is inside of the pandemic, this social isolation. We've been talking about it for a long time, but not a lot of people are. Now a lot of people are because of the pandemic.
Everybody is. Lydia, I understand during this pandemic, you've used some of the time. I don't know how much free time you really have, and thank you for being so generous with us here today. But you've been working on another book?
Yes, we have. I'd actually just finished the photographs, and in next year, 2021, a new book is coming out. A simple kind of really keeping in mind what everybody's going. So it's a kind of those one-pot meal that everybody can do, and it's complete. You put your meat, your vegetables, and everything in one pot, or the salad or whatever. And I had a lot of fun. Like Ted, yes, you run a business, and it is about finances, but there's a great sense of gratification when you're touching somebody and you're making a difference in somebody's life, or you're adding some flavor, or you're adding some excitement in somebody's life. So, when I get the emails, or not a few days ago, I got an email from an Oklahoma family, and I don't know when or if ever I would go to the town and meet these people, but it says, Lydia, last night, you were in our house. You were in for dinner. Lydia's smells permeated the whole house. The whole family was at the table with Lydia. And do you know how gratifying that is, Fred, to know that because, food and smell and taste is really affects your senses, but also your emotions, your memory, the smell of something or food brings you back to a place in a cinch. You're back with grandma. You're back. That's why that sort of nostalgia. What is grandma? The risotto that just Ted was talking about. That takes you to a very special place. Food, through the aromas, through the flavors, takes you to a comfort place, a place that you remember with grace, with pleasure. So, doing what I do, and with the books and the television, it's yes, great satisfaction for me as a person, as kind of making things, creating things, but also is the effect, the reaching out. These people become my friends. They seem to connect to me, and I'm an extension sort of their family, their need. They send me personal questions. They send me, and I wonder. I says, my God, this is important to them, what I do and whatever, and it makes me feel very good. It makes me feel, Fred, it really gives me gratification.
And I know from your shows that you feel the same thing. I mean, it's the same emotion that you have with certain recipes. Is there one kind of thing in particular that triggers those memories?
Let me just go back to that period that I was with my grandmother, and how important that was informing me who I am and the connection with food. So as I was saying, we were doing everything. I was doing everything with grandma. Just, nothing. She wasn't teaching me like, Lydia, learn this or that. I was doing it with her, and I was just absorbing it. When my parents decided to leave, to literally escape that, and go away from that part. We didn't know it as children. So I went with my mother and my brother to visit an aunt in Trieste. Then my father came. Then I realized that we were not going back. So I had not said goodbye to grandma. I had not said goodbye to friends. I had not said goodbye to my animals. I had my goats, the kids that every spring, and I played with them. The suckling pigs, you fed them, then they grew big, and then we made prosciuttos and all of this. But I felt I was so nostalgic. And I think that my passion for food was born out of that need to remain connected. I felt when I was cooking, what I remember grandma cooking, and the smells were in the kitchen, grandma was near me. And so my passion for cooking and carrying on was to maintain that connection, to fulfill that void, that emptiness, that nostalgia that I had by leaving, but not saying goodbye, but not being able to go back. Fred, eventually, 10 years after I did go back, I saw grandma, because everybody asked me that. But I think that was the sort of the ignition, the element that got me into food, and food became so important, such an important part of my life. I needed to cook. I needed to recreate those emotions, those moments. And then as I went on, this need or transport those emotions, that memory, that culture, that history to my children, to my family, but also to my viewers and to my diners and to my customers. So in a way, I feel that I am channeling through food to them the importance of what food is and what food could be for everybody. And, it's a real reality. Food is at the basis of really the basic connections of our emotions and who we are.
So beautiful. And I know on your website, Lydia, you've got a message on there too at lydiasitaly.com for viewers, a very heartfelt message that's in these times that we're going through.
I loved your story about your mom and the meals, because I think that's very actionable for all of us. To remember, and on this podcast we've only done it 4 or 5 times, but we keep having 99-year-olds on the show. And I think it's great to remind people in extended families about that importance of the meal.
I can't tell you, Mary, how I watch her, especially if she has something she likes. It's like a child. She's getting a treat. It's special. And she thanks me. She can't thank me enough. She says, I love that. This is delicious. Thank you for and she enjoys it. Of course, the house is not full like it used to be. So sometimes a friend comes, my daughter comes, and, we're at the table. But, her and I sit down at a lot of meals, and I just looking at her, the way she enjoys, gives me such gratification that what I cook, I can bring up happiness, because, I don't know how long her life will be, but certainly she gave enough of her life to all of us to raise me, the kids, as an immigrant, as a mother, having 2 small children, coming to a country with her husband, not knowing if you're going to have a home, not speaking the language, not knowing anything about it. She had the courage to take us so that our lives could be better. And you just can't forget that. Now, the more I spend, the time I spend, the more I realized how much she gave for us and how I can return this pleasures just by cooking a good meal, or just by sitting outside with her and talking about plants. And my mother, another thing she loves her flowers. So she directs me what to do with her geraniums and all of that. And I follow instructions.
Well, thankfulness is what it's all about, not just this time of year, right?
It is, absolutely. I think gratitude and realizing, what people have done for us, and appreciating, and, what can we do to make life better for our family, for us, but for whomever we can reach, whomever is in our radius, shall we say.
Well, you're not in the kitchen, so we can't have you show us a recipe the way you would normally do on TV, but we're going to be posting some recipes that you've shared with us at maryfurlong.com/podcast. And thank you so much for doing that. You also share recipes on YouTube besides the TV show. Tutto Lidia?
Yes, absolutely. Of course, now people are looking for more and more. So I have my daughter who's very much involved in this, and an assistant, Shelley, and they are with the contemporary times, with all the computers and so on. So try to get the word out, because people are looking, people are searching. But as I said before, Fred, they email me at my website, they email me, and they want things, and they connect. There's this need to connect. So evermore I'm doing things like this, a lot of podcasts. So I'm delighted when you asked me, especially because it is considering older people. And, my life certainly now has been very much being involved and with my mother and other older people, and understanding how we can render their life a little better. So it's on YouTube. I think I'm all over. But let Lydia.
I think the channel is Tudo Lydia, but people can probably just do a search for Lydia.
Yeah, search for Lydia, and you will find Lydia on different. Whether it's a full recipe showing how, whether it's discussions like this or my philosophy, but I am very open to people that write that they want to connect. And that do want an answer, maybe a recipe, maybe some ideas. What I get a lot, as I said before, is people searching their roots. My mother made this recipe, and in some dialect they give me, and she called it so and so, smachamucho, whatever. And I know there was chopped nuts in it, and so I try to figure out the recipe. I even do research to try to find the recipe that I could send them, so that they can go back to that moment in time and share it with their memories of their mother or grandmother.
Ted, I see you nodding knowingly.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm continuing to get more hungry, but it's such, the meal is such an important part of our family life. Certainly my own family, my grandparents. Sunday dinner was a no miss. It was a no excuse, no miss. There was you were there Sunday night, for sure. Everybody was together for dinner, and we've tried to continue that in our own family. But in seeing just over the last 6 months of being involved with Meals on Wheels, and understanding that most people unfortunately don't have that, and at this time more difficult than ever in terms of their ability to get together and have that. I think it's incumbent upon all of us, and important that all of us do whatever we can, to think about an older adult, whether it's somebody in your neighborhood or somebody that lives alone. My parents are in their late 70s, and we're all in this huge family debate. I have a brother and a sister. We all have kids, so there's at any one time there's 17 or 18 of us, and that's growing because we have engagements and all sorts of things happening. But we're in debate now, like, what do we do for Thanksgiving? Everybody's here, and can we do it safely? Can we be together? So that's, I call that a really sort of high class problem. On the other side, there are those that are just alone. And so, thinking about how we can do something to help those in need, whether it's, my daughter and I brought, a bag of Halloween candy to all of our recipients the day before Halloween. So for that,
you said the recipients, these are the Meals on Wheels people, the people you call friends, which is just beautiful.
No, they are. I've gotten a couple of wedding proposals, and I've been adopted 3 or 4 times now. So it's my wife says it's the only reason I do it, actually, and I'm not going to deny that I'm flattered, but it really is. You realize that what we started doing on Fridays throughout this whole thing was, we realized that on Saturday and Sunday they were going to be alone. They weren't going to get a meal delivered. So we started going to our local Italian bakery that's in our town, and we'd buy maybe some bakery pizza for everybody, and we'd bring a pizza, or we'd bring loaves of bread and cookies, and just on a Friday, just so that it was something that, and they so looked forward to Fridays, when they got their treat or they got their and it's just a tiny little thing. It's not something to we didn't do it because we were looking for recognition. We just saw that there was a need, and thinking about that in the simplest ways. What I would encourage anybody listening to this is to think about an older adult that's in your life, where a simple act of bringing over a pizza or bringing over some baked goods or something could make their day in a way that they haven't had in a while.
That's terrific. Lydia, once again,
Ted,
go ahead, Lydia.
Ted, Thanksgiving. Let me share what we're thinking about Thanksgiving. So
Okay,
I have 5 grandkids, and all 5 are away at college or school. And of course, they would like to come back, but they're not sure. So what I thought, and I have grandma, and I'm afraid they're bring, because kids at that age are carriers, not necessarily, could be carriers, not necessarily. So I thought what I would do is I would open the garage, it's a double garage, put out the broiler, give them a stack of steak and give them a stack of salmons and let them grill, put a big table in, if it's chilly enough, in the garage, halfway open, and I would send out the salads, the vegetables, and let them stay out there and let them say hello to grandma through the windows, through whatever, however, but let them, and I think they're gonna have fun grilling, because I get from them, Ted, I get a lot of calls and emails from them from school. Grandma, what's the recipe for that? And they cook, and it's just wonderful to see that they're cooked, that they're interested. Now, mind you, I also, whenever they start their school year in the new college or whatever, I go up with the freshmen and I make a meal for all of the freshmen together, or whatever. So I kind of introduce myself, but they know. So it's wonderful. You have college kids that are at home, and they're great. They're great because they're adult. They don't want any part of you, but yet they need family so much. They need the connection so much. Now, Fred, Ted, I have one more idea for you. Can I share it with you? What my mother enjoys and loves is to be to partake, to feel that she's doing something. So I have her clean all the garlic, all the onions, if I have the vegetables, and she loves growing. We have a little garden, and as I said, flowers. So what you should think is, for these elderly people in the homes, maybe a growing kit, a kit that they can be given, that they can add water, and that it grows, because there's something magical about some dirt giving you life, giving you something that you can eat or smell. And I think that elderly people in homes or whatever, if you give them this kind of kits that they could just put water or whatever and develop into different herbs or something, would be a wonderful project for elderly people in homes. What do you think of that, Ted?
I think that's a great idea. I think we should discuss it over dinner at your house with your mother.
Okay, got it.
It's beautiful, because people are always looking for a purpose too, and that just adds to it. One more thing.
100%.
I've always thought of the TED conference. It was Technology, Entertainment, and Design, and Richard Saul Werman, who's from Rhode Island, said it was always the dinner party he wanted to have. This is kind of the dinner party I like to have in November. We're hoping to share it. The work you do is really so important. We've touched on caregiving and how caregivers could sit at home with mom. Caregivers are very crunched in terms of time, but Lydia, you're really quite a role model here in how to spend that time wisely, because you don't get it back, right? When you're there with your mom, you get to enjoy that precious moment. So I love the creativity, the entrepreneurship, the resilience, and the tips that you've given our listening audience. So it's been a great show, Fred. Great idea.
Really wonderful. Lydia, and the website for people to go to, I guess the main one is lydiasitaly.com.
Right. lydiasitaly.com. And from there, they can go whatever, send me questions. And I really do answer. I really do answer. And I know you wanted Grandma to be on. I know she was sitting outside and she's not, but I mean, I might walk over if you want me to.
Yeah, that would
bring her. That would be a treat.
So, while Lydia finds her mom, I want to share that I'm going to have a granddaughter this Thanksgiving, and I think I'm going to
any day now, right?
Any day now. Hopefully, I'm going to compile these recipes. And Ted, I even want that risotto recipe to put in my grandmother's recipe book for her, because she has Italian roots too.
All
right,
Mary, congratulations.
Problem.
I think I found Mom.
Okay.
Here's Mom. She is sitting. Hi, Grandma. Say hi to everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Okay.
I don't really know how to pronounce your mom's first name, Lydia. How is it pronounced?
Erminia. Her first name is Erminia, and you
Armenia.
can ask her questions. Anything about the garden and whatever she does. Just ask her questions.
What's she growing in the garden right now?
Grandma, what do we have in the garden right now?
We have carrots, parsley, celery, and the best is gone is already.
The best is done. It's gone.
Go.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just some cold weather kinds of vegetables to grow now, right?
Right.
Right. And how are your flowers, Grandma? What's your favorite flower?
Tulips.
Tulips you like, but that's springtime. You have your geraniums are still in flower.
Yeah, but geranium I have all year around, and tulips I have just once a year.
In the springtime. Good,
Lydia,
good.
I have one more question. Would you let her know that I'm going to be a new grandmother? Any advice she has for me?
Grandma, Mary, this is Mary. She's expecting a granddaughter. In a week, she's going to have a granddaughter. What would you recommend? What would you tell her? What's some words of wisdom? Parole di dolcezza. What would you recommend?
Just give a kiss from me.
Oh, yes, I will do that. Okay. Thank
Can I
you.
get one too? I want one too.
Wish long life, healthy.
Long life and healthy. Absolutely.
Beautiful.
How old are you, Grandma?
What do people always ask people
In another
who
month,
live
I
to
will be
99?
100.
Go ahead.
Do
say it
you
again.
have what are
In the
your
morning.
secrets, advice for all of us with your longevity, making it to 99 years old, soon to be 100?
Yes, you understand, Grandma? He wants to know, how can we all reach 100 years like you?
Eat when you're hungry, sleep when you feel like to go, and don't kill yourself working. Doesn't pay.
How about a glass?
Okay.
How about a glass of wine now and then? It's also good. No, that's healthy
For sure.
for sure. You got it.
That goes without saying. That goes without saying.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, well,
Okay,
happy,
Grandma, say. You want to
happy
say?
Che bel
Thanksgiving.
moretto che
She said you're handsome.
Fred?
You
Is she
see,
talking about
you
Fred?
see her.
No, I think she's talking about you, Ted.
Yeah, she tells me she doesn't see too good, but she sees when she wants to see. All right, you want to say
Thank you.
goodbye to everybody, Grandma?
yeah, nice talking to you, and
Nice
I
talking to you,
wish you the
Grandma.
best all together.
Thank
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
And
so
Lydia, would you like to give us your traditional sign off?
Yes. So I'm gonna say, let me find a good background so I don't. The sun is not there. The sun is in my face now. So as I say, thank you very much for having me on. Really, Mary, Ted, Tom. I love the conversation. As you can see, it's very close to my heart. And what I usually say at the end of my taping is tutti a tavola a mangiare.
E bere.
Thank you so
Bene,
much,
Grandma.
Lydia.
I love it.
Ted, we know the innovations, that ageless innovation are continuing. You showed us the new robotic pet coming soon, and I know there's a lot more to come as well. You're continuing to innovate to make this technology better and better to provide better companions.
Yeah, we are. We've got a pretty robust product roadmap. We're really excited about the things that we're working on now, and we're inspired every day by the positive feedback on what we've done so far, and we want to keep improving and keep bringing joy and happiness and play and fun in the lives of older adults. Because as you can just see by Lydia's mom, they want it. All right, they want to live great, happy lives, and that's just a perfect example.
And the website is joyforall.com. That should be easy to remember. And for more information on a Meals on Wheels program near you, please go to mealsonwheelsamerica.org. That's the place to go to find one near you. Thank you so much, Ted, for the work that you're doing and for being such a great guy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mary, for having me. Lydia, such a pleasure to be on with you, and thanks for inspiring my stomach.
Thanks, Ted.
And
Pleasure.
happy
Have a good time with your daughters.
Very well. Thank you very much.
All the best for the new angel that's coming your way.
Thank you. And happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving and stay safe. Let's hope we get through all this soon.
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mary, in spite of everything with this pandemic, and that's not the only thing you've gone through in Northern California, I guess, or Central California this year. It's been such a trying year. This is still going to be such a special Thanksgiving and holiday season for you and your family with that new granddaughter arriving.
Yes, yes, we're so thrilled. I will soon be able to tell you her name after she arrives. But you inspired an idea, Fred, when we were talking about your camping trip, and you met a couple in your dinner party. So share how you.
Yeah, I can tell you about that. We were mentioning, I was talking earlier about having a virtual meal together, and I've been doing virtual meals with some friends that we met at a campground in Vermont, and they're from Canada. A lovely couple there. We've met up a couple times in the campground in Vermont and in New England. This year, obviously, it didn't happen. It did happen last year. But what we've done, and has worked well for us since we couldn't be together physically, is we'll tell each other, okay, we're going to make this for dinner and have a glass of wine and what time we're going to get together. And then we virtually set up the computers and we pretend like we're sitting at the same table. We're eating the same food, drinking a glass of wine, having the same conversations pretty much, I think, that we'd be having if we were physically together. And that's worked out well. And I've also been doing with grandchildren that my wife and I have a regular story time with them on a weekly basis, getting all the grandkids together in their different households and setting a time every week, get together, and grandpa or grandma will read a story, and sometimes they'll read stories to us. And it's just a togetherness that we haven't been able to have physically during COVID. So technology makes so much possible.
Right.
It's a substitute, maybe a poor substitute, but it sure beats not having togetherness at all.
Right. I think I have a birthday party for a 6-year-old on Saturday who wanted these invitations to go out. But, our work, yours and mine, and we worked together years ago, and now we're back doing this podcast, has been about the social implications of technology and the way in which technology can make us more human. So today's session with Lydia and Ted was inspiring on a lot of levels, because 44 million people are caregiving in this country. And often they have little time to take care of themselves, but they're also caring for other people. So I think sometimes we can get caught up in the challenges of getting to the store and doing the tasks, and we forget this message about older adults who have so much time on their hands, who that little visit can mean so much. The outreach with food can make such a difference. And so it's, I think, important to think about the way in which food and play contribute to the quality of our lives. And right after you told me that story about your friends, I arranged to have a happy hour with friends in Colorado, only they were hit by the Colorado fires. And so in the wake of all of the challenge, both economic, which we touched on, family challenges, friend challenges, business challenges, to use these technology tools to make us all bring out the best of our humanity and thinking about the lives of others. I think that's really important. And I love the recipes that Lydia shared, that Ted shared.
Yeah,
and I'm
go to our website, maryfurlong.com/podcast.
To download those recipes, write to us if you make them and let us know what you think, or take a picture. And then also read the work about social isolation, because if you read these recent research reports by the Motion Picture TV Fund and Aegis Innovation and others, you'll see that loneliness is a social ill deeper than smoking. And so the purpose of my business life has been to find entrepreneurs and talent that really move the needle on the lives of older people. And you could see the energy and enthusiasm and passion that both Lydia and Ted had in telling their stories.
Yeah, I want to point out too that our friends at the AARP recently had an article posted online that was titled 5 Ways to Prepare for Your First Holiday Alone. So there's so much attention being paid to this. There's a lot of information out there that you can get, but sometimes it's just your own instinct to reach out to people. You know, I haven't talked to this person or that person for so long. Don't hesitate to reach out.
Right. And also, I love flower arranging. So there's a lot of essential workers that are out there working for all of us. And so I'm sort of inspired by Lydia's mom to make some flowers and deliver those flowers. So Fred, it's been lots of fun. I look forward to our show in December, but this was a great one.
Terrific. Well, to our listeners and viewers, we're really thankful for you tuning in. We hope you've enjoyed it too. And please stay healthy and safe.
That's right. Talk to you soon.